Alright everyone, we start off today predictably with the Project Veritas James O'Keefe story. If I sound tired, I am. I'm still a little bit sick, although it turns out it is just a 24-hour cold, but I did only get about 3 hours of sleep last night. And I just happen to have to take my theory exam today. Don't worry on the live stream later, which will presumptively happen regardless. I'll address that. Maybe I'll make a video on advice for expats on the exam if I pass, although I don't know if I will. Of course, I haven't seen the questions yet. Anyway, Project Veritas right now is effectively collapsing. They've lost almost 200,000 followers on Twitter alone in the last 24 hours, and the hemorrhaging is continuing today. I would be very skeptical as to whether they're going to remain the journalistic force for change that they're meant to be as a company simply because of this particular issue. They forced James O'Keefe out, and to add insult to injury, O'Keefe, I guess, had sent the footage, or someone else there had the footage of his address to the company showing, sort of telling people what happened, going over that. It's a fairly lengthy video. Link in the description. He's posted it himself. Veritas did do a sort of response to this. It sounds a little bit corporate to me. I'm just saying that it doesn't necessarily sound like they're not lying through their teeth. A lot of it boils down to, well, James O'Keefe was using company expenditures, because of course they have people that pay the company, invest in it, and he was using it for, he hired a DJ once. Standard corporate stuff. Over the course of 13 years, you could only find like 5 or 6 things to complain about as far as that. Don't even bother including it in your presser. I'll react to their reaction before I get into the backstory of O'Keefe being forced out as CEO of his own company and the insulting way in which they appear to be treating him. And again, my hope is that Veritas continues to do the investigative journalism thing, but if this is how you're going to start off the new footing of your company, it makes me wary. It makes me wary because I like linguistics, and I like to look at the structure of how things are written. Perhaps I noticed this more than other people. When you say, well, O'Keefe man bad, look at all of the things that he was spending money on. He spent, what was it, $100,000 on black cars, or I don't know exactly what that means. Whatever. He hired a DJ. That cost $1,000 and stuff like that. So basically, here are my concerns with James O'Keefe. He's insulting people. He's a bad boss. He stole a pregnant woman's sandwich. True story, apparently. I don't think he denies that he took a pregnant woman's sandwich at one time and ate it. I think that's more amusing than anything else. I guess she didn't have as much of a problem as the board members did. And then you go through the laundry list of things that James O'Keefe did bad. But then right below that, literally the next paragraph is, but we don't want him gone. We just wanted to talk to him. He didn't have to leave. We would like to resolve things peaceably. That's because it's an ass-covering response. They're covering their ass by telling people, hey, James O'Keefe ain't all that, so you shouldn't back him, you should back us. But we're not the bad guys here. He decided, after being mildly reprimanded by a group of people that thought to put all of that out in public anyway, after being mildly reprimanded, he greedily took his toys and went home. That's basically what their fucking response boils down to. You shouldn't have even made it at all. Apparently, that's the problem. So the long story short is that James O'Keefe, who spent 13 years laboring away at a company that he helped to create in the first place, which has repeatedly broken front page news all over the world, not just in the US, which has exposed numerous aspects of corruption, and the timing totally coincidental based on their most recent expose, which I won't even name for YouTube censorship purposes, but you probably know what I'm talking about. Hint, hint, it has to do with a certain medical topic that is constantly Stalinized on the platform. Coincidental timing, crazy rebuttal to his leaving the company. He's forced out by Project Veritas, the board there effectively doing their little struggle session thing and then telling him bye-bye. You have forced him out. I mean, they're saying, well, we don't want him gone. Yes, but you don't want him to be the CEO of the company that he created in the first place. You're effectively insulting the man. You're attempting to strip me. And then you're talking about, well, as a non-profit, there are certain laws we have to follow. There's one interesting one. He unilaterally fired the CFO when only the board can do that. That is literally a line in their response. Okay, so he didn't fire the CFO. He made it clear he didn't like the CFO, wanted to fire him, and wanted him out. But he didn't have the physical capability to fire him, so where do you run afoul of federal law, according to a non-profit structure? It's Greek to me. I guess they found some line of legalese that would allow them to be selectively audited by the IRS or something like that. It's just a shit show. And it's sad because Project Veritas has done some very great things, and it is more than James O'Keefe. It's funny because some people are casting it off as well. Without James O'Keefe, there is no Veritas. Well, that's not necessarily true, but if you've got somebody running it effectively at the core, who was there since day one, who appears to passionately care about that particular cause because it goes beyond the company structure. The company structure is there in order to allow the mission or the ideology that you're pushing to be promulgated. It doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. Again, coincidental timing all around as to when exactly all of these things that supposedly he had been doing for years, just all of a sudden we realized how bad he really was. Even though we want him back, we just don't want him as CEO even though we like him. That is mushmouth. This is like a Joe Biden take that they've put out here. I suspect that the hemorrhaging will continue for some time. They'll lose a very large amount of support. They'll probably lose some of the people that invest in the company. And James O'Keefe will create a counter company. Now, some of the people from Project Veritas might actually go over and work for him. It'd be funny if a bunch of people from Project Veritas do that because supposedly James O'Keefe is an evil slave driver. It's almost a microcosmic Orange Man bad situation. I think that we can put two and two together and figure out why. I think that some of the money movers, the makers and shakers involved with the Project Veritas people didn't like their recent expose. Well, you've got a bridge too far on this one, and you're going to piss off the pharma companies. They'll come knocking for us at our door for sure. We can't have that. Go back to, I don't know, exposing some mayor for some grifting that they're doing. Something more pedestrian, something less important for the public to actually know. Well, you really screwed it this time. Dude, James O'Keefe has been dead and down and out and discredited like 5 times now. I hear from the legacy media regularly. Acorn and things like that. You really think that he's not just going to create a new company? He's got plenty of backers. He should look to the independent community as well to prop him up. It's not just us analyzing this story for our audience sake because it happens to be interesting and because it happens to be a popular topic right now. Some of us have spent years and fucking years paying attention to Veritas work. I remember the expose that they were doing. It wasn't just Veritas, I think there were several groups involved. You remember back when Hillary Clinton, her campaign was using middlemen to communicate with PACs, super PACs, which is outright illegal. And a bunch of people got fired or resigned because of that, because it showed systemic corruption and a skirting of U.S. election laws. That was Project Veritas mainly breaking that story. I remember that one the most fondly, but I mean, God, no, I can't remember exactly when I first encountered their work. It was definitely in the mid-2010s or before. It was a very long time ago. I still have respect for Project Veritas if they can get their shit together. It's just that their initial reaction, their stripping of his CEO status in a very summary way, number one, was already rankling, but then they effectively forced him aside, and then their presser, the response that they made to James O'Keefe reposting the video that somebody else posted anyway, of his addressing the people at the company, is beyond the pale. It just looks, something about it just stinks. It's just not quite right. When those alarm bells go off, generally, I get a little bit cautious. That's about all. Peace out.